Great. In this episode, I'm privileged to speak with a psychiatrist who specializes in treating mental health issues in young male gamers. Welcome to the show, Agam. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Toby. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me on this episode for a soulful conversation. I'm looking forward to learning so much from you. While preparing for this conversation, I was like, yeah, what you've experienced in life and what you do to help men and young ones out there is very vital because it's something I believe we overlook. It's mental health, but also looking at the lives of gamers, young gamers who spend a whole lot of time in the basement, in the dark, playing games and exploring the virtual world basically. Um, but before we go further into like a conversation on what to do in terms of mental health, I'd just love to learn from your own personal experience. Like, what was your experience like spending nights alone in the basement, gaming straight for hours? How was that like for you?
Honestly,
Yes.
it was a lot of fun.
Okay. Yeah.
Looking back at it now, of course, I have a different take, but
Mm,
when I'm in that moment, it's a blast.
mm,
Remember, these worlds that we get to go into with video gaming, they're fantastical, they're incredible. It's like dragons and knights and mages and taking on quest lines, right? Or playing with people, real people late into the night, shooting and having competition with them, right? So it's incredible. I remember one of the games I used to play was called Fallout, and in Fallout, you are in an abandoned wasteland hunting monsters and taking quest lines from people.
mm.
And that's a game I could play till like 2 or 3 easily in the morning.
Wow.
But now looking back, I'm like, I wasted so much time when I could have built up my social skills, been going to the gym, been working on a craft, been working on even my school grades, anything that was more productive than just blowing it on video games.
Mm. And at what point in your life did you realize, oh, this is so much fun, but this is not what I have to do for the rest of my life?
Absolutely. So I had a very pivotal moment, I felt like, in my life where in high school there was this girl who I wanted to ask out to prom. Her name was Priscilla, but I was too scared to ask Priscilla out.
Mm.
I had never talked to a girl, I had no social skills, so of course, right? Spending all the
Yeah.
time gaming. I would see this girl in a couple of my classes. I wanted to do it so bad. I would get these butterflies in my stomach when I thought about it, but I never did it. And then some other guy asked her out. And so I vividly remember going to prom in an oversized suit with the tie I just learned how to tie that day by myself, going to prom and then watching her dance with another guy, the guy
Oh,
she went with.
yeah.
And I remember feeling this in my stomach, this like immediately feeling sick, like I was going to throw up. My head started pounding. And I remember having that realization of, oh crap, this is where my life has led me to
Mm,
feeling this way.
mm,
I can't keep doing this anymore.
mm. Yeah. And at that moment, you decided, I'm going to turn my life around. I'm going to transform my life and become a guy that can ask any girl out.
And slowly but surely started reading up on social skills. Legitimately, I would go in college to parties or events, come back and write down in my journal how that social interaction went, the things I said, what I could have done differently, what the other person responded to, like doing it at that level.
Mm,
And I feel like even though it seems kind of too much, like too detail oriented, it was helpful in like learning these technical things that I think a lot of people take for granted.
yeah. Oh, cool. I like that. I like that. And I would just like you to walk me through the transformation you went through to become who you are today. Like, going from that guy that enjoys playing video game in the basement to who you are today, a psychiatrist. What was that transition like for you?
Yeah, for sure. So when I entered college, I had this thought of I cannot be the same person that I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so started working on social skills. That was one thing. Would practice going up to people, guys and girls, just trying to learn how to talk to them. I joined a fraternity because I wanted to have that social experience, especially around the opposite sex handled. Uh, Started to learn a little bit more about the gym, like how to work out, how to eat, how to diet, how to train, right? All of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Started to focus a lot more on my grades and my studies so I could get a good career, because I knew that getting a good career means that you're more successful in life. Having more money means that people are drawn to you, both men and women. And then money allows you to have the life to do those things. And so started slowly kind of building those different things up. And then when I was in medical school, I was thinking, okay, what specialty do I want to pick? Because we have all these different options.
Mm-hmm.
The one that really stood out to me was psychiatry, because that all deals with the mind and our thoughts, our emotions, and mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew that the way that I had overcome thinking about the different thoughts that I was having, like learning how to change those thoughts, improving the depression that I was feeling, like all those things, improving those through action. I want to be able to show other people that they could do the same thing in their life too, like
Mm-hmm.
just like I did for mine.
Yeah, I like that, and I like the fact that you made mention of you learning social skills, and I would like you to like share some of those skills that you learned. Like, how were you able to make new friends? How were you able to walk up to strangers and have discussions with them?
Yeah. So one of the books I know that everyone recommends, right? How to win friends and influence people. So there's
Mm-hmm.
one key thesis of that I think that most people forget about or just ignore. It's that other people love to talk, so let them talk. Your role is the mirror when you're speaking with them. So, for example, let's say we're talking to somebody and they say, "Oh, I'm an electrician," right? Then you're like, "Okay, well, like, what kind of electrician do you do? What's that like?" So then they tell you that, yeah, they work late and they are on their hands and feet a lot, and it's a tiring job, and then they get no recognition from people. And then that's when I can use a reflective statement where I say, "Wow, sounds really hard. Sounds like you do a lot of work. Sounds super physically painful." All those things, where basically what I'm doing is I'm reflecting what he said to me back to him,
Mm-hmm.
which immediately makes him go, "Oh yeah, that's right. Like that's exactly how it was." And then he expands further and further.
Mm-hmm.
When that conversation ends, I've barely talked. He's talked 90% of the time, yet he'll walk away feeling like, wow, like I really like this guy. I love talking to him. Let me talk to him again.
Yeah. Ah.
Imagine this on a date. I think it works even better with women.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, you ask them about their life, the genuine curiosity, right? And let them speak, let them share. And then you just kind of reflect on whatever they end up sharing back. And then before you know it, an hour has gone by and you know so much about them. They feel like you are someone they can finally open up to when no other guy listens to them and you've
Yes.
barely said a word.
Yeah, that's really smart. Like, they feel listened to, understood, and comfortable basically with you. They feel comfortable with you. Yeah,
And then,
that's
of course, that same strategy goes hand in hand with my patients, right?
mm,
Where our goal is to, as a psychiatrist, our goal is to learn about our patients' mental illness, their lives, their struggles, without interjecting any of our own like thoughts and experiences, and importantly, like life into the conversation to really focus it on that person, right? So
mm,
all of these skills like really tie in together.
yeah. Oh, awesome. Awesome. And that way, right now, you're able to, socialize better, make new friends, and go on dates as much as you want to. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So, I like us to talk about, depression for a brief minute. Um,
Yeah.
you have people who sit down in the basement, for example, gaming for hours, and people enjoy it a lot. It's so much fun. But is it in some ways tied to depression also, or tied to anxiety or ADHD also?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Toby. So a lot of those things go hand in hand, right? So let's say someone starts developing symptoms of depression where they are not eating that much, their sleep is kind of poor, their mood is really low, they don't want to socialize, they're not really enjoying things. So that person isn't going to be out going to the prom or the social event or even working towards their job because all of those things require effort.
Mm,
It's a lot easier for them to just go back in their basement or their room and play a video game.
mhm,
But then in turn, that feedback, right, when they game so much, it only reinforces that because then they feel crappy after the end of a long gaming session. They feel like, oh, my life is still sucks. I haven't really accomplished anything. I still don't have any friends. I'm still not doing well in my career.
mm,
And then they start feeling crappy. And then the cycle kind of repeats and repeats and repeats until they start going down and down this spiral.
mm,
Similarly with anxiety too, right? The treatment for anxiety is exposure, where you get exposed to a lot of the things that are causing you anxiety, even if it is your own thoughts, right? But then the more you isolate, the less exposure you're getting with dealing with those hard situations that cause you anxiety in real life.
mm.
And then the
Yeah,
cycle continues and continues.
yeah. I was actually going to ask you that. Okay, yeah. How can we then, treat this basically? Like, one easy answer could be, oh, get out of the room, get out, leave your computers alone, and go outside and play, or go outside and meet people. But that's so easy to say. That's very easy to say. But in the real sense, it's very difficult for people that are going through depression. So when one identifies this, what can, from your own point of view, like what can one do to break that cycle?
Yeah. So when in mental health, right, and especially in addiction psychiatry, the concept of behavior change is it's very simple fundamentally. The two things that make humans change are going towards a pleasure and moving away from a pain.
Mm,
Going towards a pleasure and moving away from a pain. For example, let's say you are a 45-year-old, you have two kids, you have a wife, your wife just lost her job, right? And now you have this whole family responsibility on your own.
mm,
The pleasure that you want, of course, is to see your family happy, to see them thriving, to have them being taken care of, right?
yes.
But now that pain has just shot up incrementally because now financial struggles are going to increase. There's going to be more marital tension, right? She just lost her job. Kids are going to be depending on you. So there's a lot more pain. So it's very easy for that person to immediately fuel themselves into action.
Mm,
But then now let's say if we have a young 21-year-old man who's depressed, right?
yeah.
It's very easy, like you said, to say, oh, just go outside. But that's not going to solve the problem, or even to remove the game,
Mm,
because then there'll be some other vice that that person will go to, right? Like
true.
you remove alcohol from an alcoholic, or you stop serving them at one bar,
Mm,
they just go to the next bar.
exactly.
So what
Yeah.
that person has to do in that situation is identify, of course, where do they even want to go? Like, let's say they're down, depressed, they're not really feeling like their life is going anywhere.
Mm,
Where do they want to go? What do they want to do? What do they want to accomplish? Like, where do they want to be? Who do they want to be? Right? So that's the goal. That's the pleasure, the reward that they're seeking.
mm,
But what's the pain that they're experiencing right now? Right? Oftentimes, Things like gaming, porn, alcohol, drugs, they numb that pain. And because they numb that pain, you don't feel it bad enough to make a change.
Mm. Yeah.
So, one of the first steps is really embracing a lot of that pain, feeling that pain, because you know how crappy it feels. And so that's what motivates you to take a different action
Mm.
going in the future.
Oh.
And so once you have that dichotomy set, like you understand, that person understands those things, then they can start moving away from the pain towards that desire. But with the knowledge that when you're depressed, if you're anxious, if you're suffering from a significant mental illness,
Mm.
then the speed of the steps you take won't be as fast as someone who's free.
Mhm.
But you can still take the steps towards your goal.
Yeah. Oh, I like what you said about, feeling the pain. Because most of the things that we are addicted to, we we are addicted to them because they numb the pain that we are actually trying to cover up, basically. But once we can let go of those things and actually have the courage, the boldness to feel that pain and go through the process of maybe walking through what that pain feels like to us, then I guess we have our breakthrough then. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm. One thing I'd like to know, because I know you do genetic testing for people, for your clients also. Like, I'd like to know if our genes or genetic design also is connected to our feeling of depression, anxiety, or ADHD also.
Yeah, for sure. So when talking about any kind of illness, right? Medical, psychiatric, there's always that nature nurture model that exists in medicine, right? So like let's take diabetes for example.
Mm.
Some people are definitely more prone to diabetes than others. Like there's no doubt about that. We know that genetically.
Mm.
But the choices they make in regards to their diet, their exercise, their sleep, right? That impacts the expression of those genes. And so whether those genes actually cause a phenotype, basically like a symptom in real life, right?
Mhm.
And so same thing with depression, anxiety, even addiction. Some people are more genetically prone to those than others.
Mhm.
And that's a fact. In the past, evolution might have weaned out those people so they don't reproduce. But
Mm.
nowadays, that doesn't happen, right? In modern society. So those genes get passed down from parent to child.
Oh.
But then it's also the behaviors, the life circumstances that influence whether those genes do get expressed,
Mm.
whether those symptoms of the illnesses do show up.
Mm. Okay. Okay. So, if, for example, one notices, oh, I'm having this genetic inheritance, basically. Like, I inherited this, basically, my genes from my father or my forefathers, basically. And it's not yet showing itself in a very obvious way, but one knows it is obvious, or one knows it, or basically. Um, I think like some things one could do already, just to prevent it from expressing itself.
What can one do to prevent it from expressing itself?
Yes. Like, if
Yeah.
one knows that,
Yeah.
oh,
And
I
so,
have this. Yeah.
yeah. And
Sorry.
so that's where that lifestyle choice really comes into play, right?
Mm.
So, for example, ADHD is a really big one. So, a lot of kids um, do present with ADHD traits, right? But we're finding that a lot of the incidence is increasing over these past years. Well, why is that?
Why?
Human evolution hasn't really changed that much.
Mm.
Now, kids will all have cell phones. They're all on TikTok. They're all eating processed junk food. They're
Mm.
spending less time with their families. They're not sitting down having a proper meal. Instead, they're eating really quickly and going out. They spend an hour scrolling to TikTok where they're constantly being hit with dopamine, dopamine, dopamine.
Mm.
Whereas 50 years ago, kids might have been outside and not getting that near level of stimulus that they are now, right?
Mm. Mhm.
And so all of those things are conditioning their body, their brains to express a lot of those ADHD genes much easier, and it's much easier for them uh, to fall into.
Mm,
A good way to think about it is like, let's say I have $100 and you have $10,000.
mm,
Well, if I go driving down a bad road and I get a tire in my car, then there goes my $100. Like, I'm done, right? There,
mm.
I'm gonna be broke.
Yeah.
You with your $10,000, you can drive down like 10 bad roads and like whatever, like you'll fix the tires. It's fine. You have money.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's like the genetics. I
Oh.
might be much more susceptible than you might be. Whereas you can get away with smoking for like 50 years. I might smoke for a year and get cancer.
Mm. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I guess that's where comparison also comes into play. Like it's very bad to compare. I mean, I'm talking about this in the sense of saying, I got my friends smokes a lot. I saw and he's healthy, he's looking fine, and I'm saying I can smoke too. I have to be very sure if my my genes will support that actually. And yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So, for example, one of my friends, his parents are both alcoholics.
Mm,
He doesn't even touch alcohol, or he'll
mm,
have like one or two drinks max at any
mm,
kind of social event,
mm. Okay.
because he knows that he is so susceptible to it with both of his parents having that he doesn't even want to risk it.
Yeah, yeah. That's very smart.
Yet, yeah, yet other people, even me, like I know that I can have a good night and be around alcohol, have alcohol in my home, and not feel any kind of craving or desire to use it all the time.
Mm, yeah. That also, drives from the point of knowing yourself, knowing what you are inheriting basically, or what you inherited basically, in terms of genes in this case, and then working your
Hmm.
way, like you said earlier, lifestyle, like adjusting your lifestyle to like let go of some things and adjust some things in your life to ensure that some of these bad symptoms, some of these bad genes don't, express themselves. Yeah, yeah.
I think money is the best way to really kind of bring that analogy home. If I if my parents are poor and that's what I inherited,
Mm,
then me living in a high rise in New York is not a smart lifestyle choice, because my
yeah.
money will not sustain that and I will go have problems very, very quickly.
Hmm.
But if you were
That's
born
very
in a
true.
trust fund, then you can blow 5,000, 10,000 each month on rent and have no financial problems whatsoever,
Mm,
because your cushion is so much higher than mine is.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I like that analogy. Yeah. Agam, I'd like to ask you about antidepressants. Like you're a psychiatrist, and I know I've spoken to some people before, and some of them talk badly about using medicine for anxiety or depression because it numbs them in some ways, it makes them feel bad. So, from your point of view as an expert, as a psychiatrist, what do you how effective are antidepressants?
The way that I describe medication, antidepressants to people is, imagine if you're walking on a sidewalk
Mm,
and you trip and fall. You bruise your arm.
mm,
That's fine. You just bruised it. You know, that's okay. You feel a little bruise, you get up, it hurts for a day, you move on with your life. The second person comes around, trips on that sidewalk, and they break their arm. That person needs to go to the hospital.
yes.
That person needs a cast. That cast doesn't have to be on forever.
Mm,
They could have it for a couple weeks, couple months, maybe like a year or two. Maybe they need some kind of or like arm surgery, rehab, and then they're recovering.
mm,
The medication is the cast. It can help make things easier for the person to be able to function and live their life and do what they have to do.
mm, yeah. Ah, okay. So I mean, you believe like using medicine can help, to cure or maybe to help in the process of healing from depression and anxiety.
So I'll give you a good example. So one of my patients, just saw her yesterday. So she is a 15-year-old girl and she has OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. And
Mm.
with her OCD, the way it used to be was she had to wash her hands 5 or 6 times every time she would touch anything that could be dirty. All of the silverware has to be arranged in a particularly perfect way. The bed sheets in her room have to be just laid out. Everything has to be nice. Nothing can be messy because she feels like such a sense of tension and just fixation on this that, and she can't even live her life. Like she had to stay home from school, couldn't even go out. Imagine that for a 15-year-old girl who can't even go and spend time with her friends because she's so worried that like nothing isn't perfect, right?
Mm. Yeah.
And then she started on medication. She also started therapy, but then she started medication. Now she only washes her hands twice instead of six
Oh,
times.
that's good.
She doesn't have to finish a plate. Like she can leave some food on the plate and it does not destroy her to do that. All the silverware doesn't need to be arranged perfectly out. She can attend a normal school and like live in that or like go to classes and be able to graduate with her
Yeah.
peers and classmates.
Mhm.
So the medication can help make things easier so that way the person is able to do what they have to do to live their life.
You realize, yeah. Well, thanks for that example. Yeah. I just asked again because some people have that different opinion that, oh, I mean, medication. I think I was speaking with a guy some weeks back and he was like, no, 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 no medication for me because I started feeling numb basically. Yeah, yeah. But that, I mean, this are
Yeah.
like maybe side effects to it also. Yeah.
Yeah. The numb thing is a very common complaint and side effect that I do hear, right? So
Mm,
not it happens for sure.
mm,
What I tell people is that just like if I have one shot when I go of alcohol, I don't feel anything. If I have 4 shots, I feel pretty good. If I have 12 shots, I'm going to the hospital.
yeah. Uh-huh.
The dosage is very, very important.
Mm,
So choosing the right dose for someone to where they feel good, they feel like the medication's benefiting them, they feel like it's like an amplification of things where or it's like a mood stabilizer, something that kind of normalizes them to where they're able to function
mm,
is the goal. Not to feel numb or to completely take away who they are or to feel like a zombie, but to find that right balance, that right mix, the right dosage to where, that person is getting a net benefit from it.
mm. Yeah. Everything in moderation in the right dosage. Yeah. Yeah.
And different medications work really well for different people and different conditions too,
Mm,
right? Just like some people prefer drinking whiskey, whereas some people can't tolerate whiskey, others are more wine. Some people like marijuana, for example. Whatever their substance is, or even like music, right? Like people have different genres that really speak to them.
mhm.
It's
Yeah.
similar with medication, like different ones have different effects on different people.
Mm,
And so like being able to find that unique choice for that person, like that's where that expertise really is important.
yeah. And you as a psychiatrist, you're able to figure out what a patient actually needs, what kind of medication the patient needs. Yeah.
Absolutely, that's the goal.
Yeah. And you do that through, lab work, genetic testing also, and the medication management that you do.
Yeah, lab work, genetic testing, medication management, uh, and honestly, psychiatric evaluation too. That's really important. Being able to tease out. For example, I had a 21-year-old guy, right? And so he'd been treated for depression, anxiety by a couple different psychiatrists, and nothing was really helpful. And so he came to see me. His mom found my website, came to see me. And so we do a full evaluation where I talk to him about his symptoms for an hour, what he's been going through, the life experience that he has. And then he starts talking about his relationship and how he starts getting these panic attacks and he feels like he's dissociating, meaning that he feels like he's leaving his body, he's leaving his consciousness.
Mm.
And that can often be a trauma symptom.
Mhm.
So I ask him, like, has he had any kind of trauma in his life? And he says, no, like nothing. I've never been sexually assaulted. I've never been in a traumatic accident, like nothing like that. So I asked him to start describing his past relationships. And so he told me that he had one relationship and in high school. And he says in this relationship, the girl would say that she would accuse him of sexual assault if he left her.
Wow.
So he describes how he felt trapped in that relationship. He wasn't being physically trapped, but emotionally he still had that same response. So now carrying it forward to his current relationship with his fiance, when arguments and things would escalate, that's when a lot of those symptoms would show up. So he was having a trauma reaction from a past relationship that really hadn't even been talked about or diagnosed or even linked together. So once we were able to link that, we were able to change his medication to ones that are more suited to treat trauma rather than just pure depression. And then his mom sent me a testimonial about how he's a completely different person, and she finally feels like her son is happy again.
Mm. Yeah, I like that. That's awesome. Going to the root cause of an issue or a problem can actually help in finding out the best thing to do to get to the solution. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And so that's why that's like a misconception I try to correct with people is that psychiatry isn't really about just shoving medications down people's throat.
Mm.
It's about using our medical knowledge, medicine, as a tool to be able to help people to live better lives.
Yes. Yeah. And also from your expertise, like a closing question, basically, I'd like to know what we can do as men, as people, as human beings, to level up our lives and also to improve our mental health. Like, I want to hear that from a psychiatrist's point of view and from a person who
Yeah.
has experienced transformation also.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So what I tell people is that think of life as a video game.
Mm.
You know how when you're playing a game, you have certain stats, certain skills. For example, if you're playing Pokemon, you have an attack, you have a defense, you have strength, or you have special attack, you have speed, right? You're playing Dark Souls, you have dexterity, you have stamina. So these are different skills that we have.
Mm.
And now every time you play a game, you might say, and you get experience, you might get a combat skill here. You might get a movement skill, a stealth skill as you start practicing those things. A charisma skill, for example. Like these are different skills that you can get in a magic skills you get in game, right?
Yes.
And then when you get those skills, let's say you try to fight a level 40 boss. You couldn't do it when you were level 10. But now you got all that expertise, that XP, you leveled up to level 45. You come back to fight that boss, and suddenly now you're beating him instead of him beating you. It's the same thing in real life. We have fitness skills, social skills, we have concentration skills, we have anxiety skills, we have distress tolerance skills, we have emotional control skills, we have mindfulness skills. We all have these different skills. We have resilience, right? These are all different skills that we have. We start out with different stats. Some people are born stronger physically, some people are born smarter. So these are different stats that we have.
Yeah.
So the question is, how can we level up these skills to meet the real life challenges, the real life bosses in real life, and defeat them?
Mm.
And so the more that you're able to level up those skills to handle the real life challenges, the better that your life will be.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much, Agam. I really appreciate that. For anyone out there who is trying to connect with you, maybe wants to work with you, get some counseling, some psychiatric analysis done, or medical, I don't know, all the services that you offer, basically. What's the best way to connect with you and to work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So best way to connect with me is on my website, so www.agamdawanmd.com. So there I offer free consults to anyone who is interested in getting a psychiatric evaluation, getting treatment for depression, anxiety, ADHD, bipolar, PTSD, or gaming addiction. And we'll talk about your situation and see what we can do.
Awesome. I'm going to place a link to your website in the show note of this episode. So I encourage everyone out there to click on the link, copy the link, and reach out to Agam and get the right counseling that you need for overcoming whatever situation that you're in right now. Thank you so much, Agam. I really appreciate this. It was awesome speaking with you, and I learned a lot about breaking free from every depression or addiction, basically. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Toby.
Yeah. So that's officially the end of the podcast recording. How was that for you?
It was good. It was good, my friend. Yeah, how was it for you?
I enjoyed it. I learned a lot.